What's up, everybody? I'm getting ready to make a couple upgrades to my blow through carb. I got the quick fuel E-85 metering blocks for this thing. I'm about to tear this carburetor off. I'd just like to show a couple of the little things that I've done with this to make it work a little bit better. I made a special bushing here for the throttle linkage. The main throttle bracket I need to upgrade a little bit. I'd like to do like a fabricated aluminum or a billet piece for that. But this bushing I actually made on a lathe. It has proper clearance, so that way it is not going to lock up on you. You got plenty of clearance there, and then it's got a nylock nut that holds it into place. That way you don't have any kind of slop in the throttle or anything. I really like that piece. I'd like to actually make some of those, maybe sell them or something like that. It's actually pretty good. And then I need to refabricate a little bit back there on the main throttle point. See what will happen. It gets popped out of the hole. It's not really ideal. So I'll probably fabricate something for that also while I'm doing this project. But basically, I got to pull the carburetor off of it now, bring it into the shop, and show some of the other modifications I did. I actually already upgraded the accelerator pumps, and I've got some different spring kits for these, for Demon and Quick Fuel. They come from Holley. I'll explain a little bit more about that once I get it inside and tear it apart. Alright, now I've got the old gasket cleaned off of here and that's scraped clean. I just want to show some compressed air really quick so you can get kind of an idea how dusty and corroded some of this stuff gets. That's what all that white buildup is. It's got some methanol mixed in there too. That's probably adding a little bit of the corrosion. I'm going to try to get that out of there and run straight E-85 and see if it behaves any better. I have the carburetor over here on my toolbox right now. I got a lot of different parts and everything laid out right here. This is going to be the time to go through everything, thoroughly clean, look at anything that I don't like with this setup, and this would be the time to change that. I'm thinking about putting the second boost reference power valve in the secondaries. That might work pretty good. The only thing that I had that was a problem with that was the little extension that goes to the boost reference power valve. It's really hard to get that to clear with the float, so I may leave that one blocked, and if that doesn't cause me any issues like that, I will just leave it blocked. I got extra gaskets for the hat. Then I got this kit, which I was wrong. It's actually an Edelbrock part that's made for Holley, Demon, and Quick Fuel. So these are your accelerator pump springs. You have the different colors, and then you have a sheet with a chart and everything on it, kind of explaining what to do with these. There's some that are lighter, some are a little bit heavier. You don't necessarily have to go in there as pairs. You probably use the lighter one on the shallower accelerator pump. And then I've got another, it's a Holley trick kit. I've had this for some time, and I ended up throwing my spare gaskets and other different parts, my little umbrella hats, just whatever I have for spare parts. There's actually one that looks like it's a Edelbrock or something, or Quadrajet. This is the type of corrosion that we're seeing here running the methanol on the E-85. Those are the old accelerator pump diaphragms that I already pulled out, and you can see I have the new ones already in there, which I'm probably going to take these apart and mess around with these springs and try to get these calibrated just a little bit better. Seems like the secondaries are awfully stiff, so I may need to go a different direction with that, figure out what spring is in that, and maybe try to start with a lower one. It's a little bit lighter. I got these vent tube extensions that I made. So I used a piece of 3/8 brake line and these little street L's, and I threaded into the main body with a 1/8 MPT, and it cracked it right there. So that's something that I'm probably going to have to upgrade and do something different with. Shouldn't hurt anything, but what I'm worried about more, the zip tie right here, probably actually going to use steel wire tie and put around that part there, secure that. Might help a little bit better with aerodynamics and everything. Then it's got the annular discharge boosters in it. So once I get all this set up, I have all these different jets. I started out with this kit here, which is a JEGS kit, but realized that it's actually necessary to start out with a full kit. These are your air bleeds. They go from 65s to 75s, I believe, in this kit. And then you have your main jets. I think these ones go from 70 to 100. Actually open it up. Yeah, 64s to 99s. So I think looking at some of the specifications on the factory quick fuel carburetors that you can get from like Summit and Jegs, they range like anywheres from like 80s to 84s, 90s to 96s. So I think what I'm gonna do is put 80s in the primary and then put 90s in the secondary and kind of tune from there. But I'm gonna have to start tearing down this carburetor so you can see what kind of different contamination and everything that we're looking at now, figure out what's plugged up on it, get everything completely clean, and then we go with the quick fuel metering block setup, specifically for E-85. So it's E-85, but it's also blow through. So there's a few other things that I've done to this carburetor to run your boost reference power valves. There's these other channels down on the bottom that you have to drill through, and those get plugged, and that goes, it passes through into your power valve channel restrictor circuit. And then it's going to help a lot with the idle circuit. That's where I'm going to have to choose which air bleeds and everything that I put in it. And then the squirters, I may leave those alone for now. They're kind of easy to get to. That's kind of another reason that I would like to change this. I think I actually made it to where I can still get to these to change them. It's not too bad. You just have to use a short bit and a 1/4 inch wrench. I mean, I kind of like this setup in some ways, but it looks like it's more of a turbulent flow through that path than it would be like a laminar flow. And I'll have to get it into boost and see what happens, see if I have any kind of a hiccup, maybe like a lean spot or anything like that, and see what it does on wide open throttle. So I'm going to tear this thing apart. Now I'm going to explain some of the different characteristics with the corrosion and everything that we're going to see in a situation like this where you're running methanol or E-85. So you can see the discoloration. It's kind of like a powdery texture, corroded surface around in here. And I noticed something with the secondary bowl. This float was set really low where it wouldn't even hardly move. So I need to do something about that and set it differently. Somehow it was still getting fuel in it, so something's not right. But it wasn't getting fuel. This was all yellow, dry. It didn't hardly squirt anything when I took it off of the car. It still had a little bit of fuel in the bowls. But that's a problem. I'm going to have to clean that really good. Hopefully that seal is good. And then looking into the metering blocks. So this is your secondary. This actually has dual extensions on it. I'll actually get back to that later on how you check the depth with a set of calipers. Same thing, white corrosion and everything on it. And this one is actually blocked. So that was what I was talking about before. Like typically on a stock Demon carburetor, if you look up their spec sheet, it does specify on the factory ones, I think those are blocked. Not 100% sure, that's just something that I read. And then you have quite a bit of corrosion down inside the well where your power valve goes. I'm gonna have to clean that out. I like to use a little bit of penetrating spray. I'll wipe all the dry stuff off of it and use a little bit of penetrating spray to sort of create like a polish. Not really like Mother's or anything, just a little bit of oil to kind of loosen up some of the dried on particles. And you can see how it's congealed down in the bottom of that well for the power valve. This is for the primary. But you can see the difference because I know this one had sufficient fuel in the bowl all the time, which the rear one, it just got full when I was trying to set the needle on it, and then it sort of ran out of fuel. So I stopped there and decided to just buy the parts and do all this and go through and update it. So on this bowl here, where this float is set, you want to hold it up. Now I know that I like the level that this is set at, so I'm going to leave this needle and seat in it, but the casting line right there on that float, I have a point of reference. So that's going to be sort of like a starting point, even on the secondary, and I like the level that this was set at, so I'm going to make sure to leave it right here but you can see how much cleaner it is. More sufficient fuel flow. Now these needles and seats, so these are the ones that came in it from where I bought it. And then they are 110s, if you can read that. 110s front and back. And then the new ones, I think they're like 130s. I'll have to take the screw off of it. Just try not to lose anything. It's kind of dirty too already. See, it's a 130. These aren't the quick fuel ones. This is a kit that I bought off of Summit. It's a Holley kit. This one right here, it's Holley High Performance Ultra HP E-85. So these are the two things that you are going to have to do. So you're going to come with these diaphragms here. It's your secondary. This is what I'm talking about with the springs. I might have said wrong. Like, you got to keep the right spring in the front. I tried to use one of these longer ones thinking that I could get away with the lighter one, and it sort of like binds up. But you have to look at the characteristics of which style of diaphragms that you're using and try to figure out the spring that works the best, because it's going to sit vertical like this if you're looking at the side of the car, and that's going to seat right down in the middle on your plunger for your diaphragm. Oh, I think them other parts just showed up. And then I'm going to try this gold spring. And then in the primaries, you're going to want to use this. There may be different variants of these certain springs, but the logic behind this in this spring kit, basically what it explains is if you're using a vehicle that's under a heavier load, you want a spring that's going to act slower when you depress the throttle. That's pretty much the way that it explains it to you. So, two things I like to do. It's a little bit more finicky on your secondaries, but I'll get down in here with my calipers and measure the depth of this bowl with calipers. And you do not want to deadhead this thing where it's going to restrict flow. So when you get in to putting your vent tube extensions, see, I got 2 vent tube extensions on each one. You want to make sure that you have a sufficient gap between the jet and the rear of the bowl, because if you get it too close, it's going to restrict the flow, if that makes any kind of sense. So all this stuff has to be cleaned up. Basically, what I'm going to save is my jets and my extensions, and take note of which ones that are in there now. I think I'm actually exactly what I said before. I'll check. And then that block off plug for the power valve, I'm going to transfer that over to the quick fuel metering block. And then in the front one, I'm going to transfer over the boost reference power valve to the front one. And then this kit actually comes with 2 of these snorkels that go into the metering blocks, and that's all part of this kit. Both your front and your rear have your snorkel and your gaskets for your power valves. But these boost reference power valves actually come with their own seal already on them. This is like the ones on the video from like Griff's rear mount turbo. It's like Australia. You guys have probably seen it. And then basically what you want to do with these, I would actually use like a glass of water or something like that, and then you put pressure in towards this ball, and then use a regulator, and then have a hose that seals on this really, really tight, and set it down like in a bowl of water. And you start at like 0, and then you gradually increase the pressure on this regulator until it starts to leak. So say if it starts to leak at 2 pounds, and you want to run to where it opens at 6 psi, you regulate that pressure up to 6 psi, like if you just stuck your thumb over it, and then you put it on there, and then you get it to where it just stops bubbling by tightening this, and then just loosen it up. Do you know where your release point is, where this is going to open up under boost? And that's very critical when you're running these. You could try to guess a little bit, but without actually starting out with any kind of known data, you're just kind of taking a stab in the dark. And that's just in theory. That's the way that I like to do it. I don't know what everybody else does. But the biggest thing is to get this all 100% cleaned and then see what other kind of issues that I run into with this. I'm going to fix this part here. Take note of what size air bleeds that I have in here. And then make sure that all the passages on this thing are clean. And then I'm going to get back to the assembly. Now we have the carburetor cleaned up. Took that zip tie deal off. Made a wire tie for the vent tube extensions. You can see it's a lot cleaner. I use a little bit of stuff. I get this at Rural King. I like Rural King. It's like one of the better places near me. Use some of that once you get all the dry stuff blown off of it. And just sort of take a rag or a towel and polish all that white junk off of there. Just like you would if you were polishing an aluminum wheel or something. Polish those little bits of gasket and stuff out of there and get it all clean. That'll help out a lot. Now it's gonna be time for the final assembly, and I'll get right back to you. Alright, now this carb is back together. Just a few things here. So these metering blocks, when I got them, the idle adjustment screws were turned all the way in. I went ahead and squared that up. I turned those all out 1 1/4 turns. And then all these new bolts, they're plated. Hopefully they'll last a little bit better than these other ones. They got pretty corroded. We'll see how that works out. I'm going to get the thing put back on the car here in a minute. I'd just like to touch base on the cost of all of this. This carburetor is actually a 650 CFM Holley HP. The base plate had some machining done to it or whatever. I did the boost reference power valve kit. I think I had like $80 in that. The whole carburetor when I bought it was like $718 shipped, I think. And then, so the E-85 upgrades. Now the accelerator pump upgrade kit that I put into this, it was like 85 or 90 bucks from Summit. And then the metering blocks themselves, that kit was $250. So other than that, I've got some minor hardware and, you know, some of the stuff that I cobbled on this thing. That should work okay. I really don't like the JB Weld, but it has a little crack that I had to try to cover up. So I'm probably going to be looking at getting a main body for it also. I want to at least put this thing back together because it seems like it was working pretty good the way it was. I don't think that's going to be an issue, but it's just good to have for peace of mind, maybe to upgrade that one time when I go through it and see what I want to change. Once you get into these things, all your little channel restrictors, you can change those also, just to make sure that your tip-in and your cruise and everything is going to be a little bit better. Typically on these blow-through carbs, you know, they're not much for cruising. It's just basically, you know, get it up to the line or just do a short burst, let out of it, and then when you really want to get on it, they're basically good for wide open throttle. So I'm gonna have to get this back on the car, see what my bowl levels are looking like, what my fuel pressure is looking like, and then I'm probably gonna have to go and fill up a couple cans of E-85 also, so I don't have anything left except for what's in the tank on the car. It's getting low. It's like a little less than half of a tank. But I'm gonna get this thing put back on here. Hopefully it runs so I can show it running. So I checked this all out on the bench, and this thing, it worked properly. So the secondary, the accelerator pump, feels like it's just stuck. It just barely moves. So I'm gonna have to figure that part out really quick. Hopefully I can just get some adjustment out of that recoil spring on it, get it to travel a little bit farther. Since the diaphragm is a deeper diaphragm, that would make perfect sense. So I'm gonna have to get that working really quick. It does run though. I'm gonna have to get it to idle and get it warmed up a little bit. Okay, now this accelerator pump works. So what the problem was, the squirter had become clogged up. So I scraped off all that old gasket and then cleaned out those little emulsion tubes on there. Good spray now. Now it's plenty free, so we get high volume. This thing should start right up. Still have the hat off of it for now, just for that matter, to see if I had an issue or not. I usually do because I'm lazy. That's typical. No adjustment or anything. Got 8 psi on the fuel pump. Starting to get rich now. So I'm gonna have to tune on this thing a little bit, work on this idle circuit. Just wanted to show that it runs just like that. About, you know, hour and a half or 2 project for me. I'd say it's success. Well, it looks all right for the most part. I'm gonna have to tune down on the fuel a little bit on the idle circuit. But other than that, I mean, it maybe took me about 15 or 20 minutes to get it to run and idle. It's not as smooth as I would like. I have to look at the tip end and everything on it. It seems like it's got a little bit of a rich spot there, but you can iron that out by messing with the cams. Rotate those lobes on the accelerator pump. Usually iron some of that out. It's just going to be just simple tune it, wash, rinse, repeat until I get it smoothed out, and then we'll go on from there. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. See ya.